All right, welcome back to Game 218, Game Scripting for Designers. In this lecture, we're going to be talking a lot about death and dying and killing our player and all those important things that make our game fun. So, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be doing in these next few lectures are things that would be done by a gameplay engineer, generally rather than a level scripter. But the really important thing to keep in mind is that even if you're a level scripter, you want to know how these things work, what they mean, kind of what the theory behind them are, so that you have a good understanding of how to use them in your levels. So we're going to take a look at how these work, and by setting up these concepts and getting them to work in our game, we can not only make fun little levels, so it gives you something to show off in a portfolio, but it's also going to give you an understanding of how these systems work, so that you can put them to use and come up with other neat things you can do. It's also going to help us learn things like custom functions and what it means to destroy an actor or to cast an event to the onDestroy event so that something happens customly every time something's destroyed. And so in this first one, we're gonna do some changes to our character controller, and we're just gonna build a simple little level that when we press a key, I think I'll make it the P key. When you press P, you die, and that's gonna be it. So in order to do that, I just started a new third person. Again, this will work in first person as well, so it works in any of the game modes, but I like the third person right now. And this third person, we're going to just set it up so that when we hit the key P, it's going to kill our player. So in order to get that going, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my player. I'm going to select my third person character. So I selected my character. And I'm going to edit the blueprint. So we're going to come in here, and here's all of our gamepad input, all the input we're getting. I'm going to make a new comment in here. And it's die on P. So whenever they press P, you're going to die. So I'm just going to create my comment area. I'm going to create a new event. And that's just going to be whenever they press that key that's going to represent death, our death key, which is just going to be P. So when they press the P key, they're going to die. So we need to think about what does it mean for our character to die in terms of game terms. So there's two different ways that death can be handled in a lot of games. In one way, we destroy the object that represents our player. So the player object is just cut out of the game, they're removed, and on that destroy, things are going to occur. So one way we can kill our player is by actually literally destroying the player character from our game world. Another way that we can do it is we can actually just reset all of the values in our character and move them to the starting point. And that way they kind of respawn at their starting point, but they're not actually removed from memory. The player will still exist in the memory of the computer, but they'll just be kind of deactivated and kind of set aside. We're going to take a look for ours, and we're going to do that first concept where we're going to actually destroy our player when they hit the key. So very simple. We're just going to have this idea that when the P key is pressed, we come out and we're going to destroy an actor. So here's our destroy actor function, and the target is ourself. So when we hit the button, we're going to destroy our actor, we're going to die. So if I save, I start up my game here, and I press the P key, my actor's destroyed, I can't move around, my game's kind of frozen, that's where I'm at. So that's the way we're just going to handle death in our game, is just destroying our actor. But we're going to want to make sure that when we hit that death, that our player can respawn. They can come back at a new location. So I'm going to go back to that blueprint, the same blueprint for my character. So I'm going to exit out of playing, select my character, edit the blueprint. And we're going to save his spawn point. So under my variables, I'm going to create a new variable. And this type is going to be called a vector. So a vector is actually three variables, three floats, an x, y, and z. And we use them to store locations. We can also use them for vector movement. They can represent a direction and a length in that direction. So, 5 meters to the north or 7 meters northeast. So we can come up with kind of a direction and a distance in that direction. But we're going to use ours to hold a position. So I'm going to call it spawn point. I'm going to make it editable so that we can see it. And I'm going to give it a tooltip. Spawn point of the player. And what we're going to do is we're going to come into our game and we're going to set up in our scripts a begin play that's going to run as soon as we begin playing. So I'm going to set up a new event, begin play, and I'll start with a comment here, just like before. So comment, and this is going to be set up our respawn. And we want to set up our respawn on begin play, so I'm going to get my event begin play that runs as soon as we start playing. So when our game starts, or as soon as our character enters the world, we're going to set our spawn point to our current location. So on event begin play, I'm setting my spawn point, but I'm not going to set it to 0, 0, 0 as it is now. I'm going to set it to my current location. So I'm going to get actor location. And this is going to give me the location of myself. Because we're inside of my third-person character, this is the location of this player, his location when he starts. So as soon as he begins playing, his spawn points can be set to his current location. So that's just the idea of wherever we put him in the world, that's kind of his respawn point. He'll respawn back at that point. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a function that runs every time our character is destroyed. When we get destroyed, we're going to run this function. So coming out of my set, right? I'm going to come out of my set, and I'm going to call a function that's going to bind a new event to onDestroyed. And so what this does is it allows us to come in, and so as soon as we begin playing, we set our spawn point, and then we're going to create a custom event, and this custom event is going to run whenever our object is destroyed. So whenever our self is destroyed, it's going to run the event that comes out of here. So I'm going to connect this event down here, and this event is going to be called, I'm going to create a new custom event. So under add event, I'm going to add a custom event. And so here we go. I've got a custom event I'm going to call respawn. And so what's going to happen now is that every time we're destroyed, it's going to call the respawn event. When we come out of here, this is what our respawn event is going to be. This is what our respawn event does. So our respawn event is going to create a new character at our spawn point. So we're going to need to create our actor at location. So so we need to spawn a character, right? There we go. Spawn actor from class. So spawn actor from class is going to create an actor of a given class type. So I'm going to choose my class type. My class type is going to be third person player. Again, if you have the first person, you may need to find the first person player or whatever your player is. So see how mine's third person character up here in my character script or my class. So you need to find the same one that matches whatever type you're doing. So I'm looking for mine. So there we go. There's my third person character. So it's going to spawn one of these. All right. So whenever I respawn, it's going to create one of these characters. And then I'm going to need to possess that character so that I have control over it. So my next one is going to be possess. the target is which controller is going to possess it. So I need to get character controller. So I need to get, sorry, it's player controller. So I'm going to get the player controller for player 0. And player 0 is going to be the target of this. And they're going to possess. And the question is, well, what are they going to possess? They're going to possess this third-person character that we spawned. So I'm going to connect that up. So it spawns the character. There's its setup. So here's my third-person character. Here's the transform of where we want it to spawn. So I'm going to split that structure pin. And see how this gives us a location, rotation, and scale? Oh, I don't fit in my comment anymore. I may have to move my comment and resize. So when we spawn, because I did that split of that pin, now we're looking for the location to spawn at. And I'm going to make sure I spawn at my spawn point. So I'm going to bring that out, get my spawn point. So again, I'll walk through all of this once we get to that point, but the idea being, when we call our respawn event, when somebody tells us to respawn, we're going to spawn an actor, right? And that actor is of class third-person character, or whatever your character class is. The location we spawn it at is going to be our spawn point vector, which we stored. Once we spawn it, we need to take possession of it. So it's going to possess that character. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to be able to bind this respawn to our onDestroyed again. So we want to make sure that after we possess the character, that this new character, when it gets destroyed, right, then it's going to respawn itself. So we need to make sure that that's going to get set. So I'm going to leave this here so that hopefully when it creates the new one, it should set that. We'll give it a try and we'll see. We'll debug and test and make sure that that's going to work. But this is the idea that when we start our character, when they first exist in the world, we set their spawn point, and then we're going to bind a new event to their onDestroyed. So when they're destroyed, it's going to call this event, respawn. And what respawn is going to do is it's going to create a new actor based on that third-person character. It's going to create it at the spawn point, right? And then it's going to take that actor and we're going to possess it. It's the in pawn that we're going to possess. And who's going to possess it? Player 0. And so that'll create that new one. We'll set it up and we'll continue working on this idea. So I'm going to compile, save. We'll come into the world. I'll play. So there's my character. I'm going to move away from my spawn point. I hit P. My character disappears. It creates a new one at that spawn point. And now my player's able to move again because I took possession of it. When I press P, it destroys. It calls the respawn, puts it at a spawn point. And so now my player's kind of dying each time I hit the P key. But it's really this like abrupt teleport. So I'm gonna stop that abrupt teleport, and we're just gonna introduce some delays that are gonna make it a little smoother. So I'll come back to my character, and we'll just add a little bit of some delays here. So the idea being, instead of P destroying our actor immediately, I'm gonna break that link, and that's gonna be the last thing we do. Or actually just a little bit, I may do one more thing. So nah, it's going to be the last thing we do. I'm going to press the key. When you press the key, I'm going to do a delay. So that I'm going to wait a short amount. So I'm going to wait 1 second. But actually, before I delay, I'm going to unpossess. Turn off context sensitivity. Unpossess. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get player controller. And so I'm going to take away control of my player. So my player is no longer under control of my human player. So the controller is no longer under human control. So he's just going to stand there. And then I'm going to delay for a short duration, 1 second. And then I'm going to destroy him. And so now compile, save. Play. Now I've got a little bit more that when I press the P key, I can't move, and then it takes a little bit to move. You won't see much in here in my setup because it's just this idea that while I'm moving, I lose control, and then, right, then I teleport to that location. If you make the changes yourself and you play, it's a little more understanding as to how it's feeling and how it's going. Alright, so I'll come back to my blueprint. We'll walk through what it's doing one more time so that we have a good solid understanding of what's going on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create checkpoints so that you can respawn at a given checkpoint. They're going to be a lot easier than we think. So we'll go through and do those. So here's the core idea. To die, we're just going to destroy our character. But when we destroy our character, there's a function that we can bind, an event, that says this event runs whenever we're destroyed. And so the combination of those two pieces, one piece that destroys them and another one that runs whenever we're destroyed, is what's going to allow us to kind of die and respawn. So here's the blueprint for our death. When they press the P key, we're going to take control away from the player. So now our player pawn just freezes. They can't go anywhere. They can't move. We're going to do a short delay, and then we're going to destroy the actor. So it's very easy that we're just going to do it. If you had if you wanted to make a kill volume, that when you step into that volume, you instantly die, same type of idea, except you do on overlap. You would unpossess the pawn that entered and delay and destroy it in order to kill it. So you can do that same idea where you can kill a player by a trigger, so you can make kill volumes. So if you want to smash them when a rock hits them, or you could probably find a way to make it so that when the AI touches you, when we get to AI in the next couple of lessons, that they'll kill you instantly. We'll take a look at how you can do that. So here's how we do our respawn. So that allowed us to die when they press P, and now we're going to look at respawning. In order to get our respawn to work, we need to have this key right here. So this is the most important section. It's this bind event to onDestroyed. And what that does is it allows us to create an event that's going to run whenever our object is destroyed. So in our event getPlay, our goal is to get to this and bind a new event to it. So first thing I did was I set my spawn point to the actor's current location so that whenever I create a new character, they spawn at the point where they were created. So that's like a checkpoint of where they're going to respawn next time. We bind the event onDestroyed so that this event down here that I named Respawn, which is a custom event, is going to run whenever they're destroyed. And that's going to call the spawn actor, and this is spawn actor from class when you're looking it up in the box. We chose what class, what type of character we're going to spawn. Later on when we create AI characters, you can spawn AI characters with this same block. You're just going to have to spawn their character class rather than the third person character class. And again, if you're in the first person, I think this will be called first person character class. Not sure exactly, but it'll have a name you'll recognize when you look through your classes. And then I split the pin because the pin that was there before was a transform. Transforms have a location, a rotation, and then the scale. Well, I don't want to mess with rotation or scale. I'm just going to mess with location, so I split that pin, and we spawn them at our spawn point. After this runs, the thing that we spawned comes out of this return value, and I'm just going to make sure that I take possession of it so that I can control the new one. If I left this off, I wouldn't be able to control my new player. Now, when my new player is created, it's going to run its begin play, so it's going to set its own spawn point to where it spawned at, and it's going to bind its own onDestroyed to this function so that it will run its respawn whenever it's destroyed, and then that cycle kind of continues each time we go. Here in this respawn is where you could also, at the end of respawn, instead of immediately spawning, you could check how many lives they have left, and then set it up so that whenever they're destroyed, right, it subtracts one from the lives. If they have enough lives left, they spawn the actor. If they don't, he doesn't spawn. Those kind of things can be set up when programmers are creating more interesting levels. We're not going to go that far into having lives just because we're looking at more the level side of things. but I wanted you to have a good idea of how this works, because we're going to need to know this if we're going to create our checkpoints. So I'm going to save, make sure it's compiled, and I'm going to create a new checkpoint. So to do that, I'm going to have a box trigger, and I'm going to put a checkpoint up at the top of the stairs because it's nice and easy for me to get to. Sorry if I make you dizzy with my moving around. I always move really fast, I find, within Unreal. So here's my top of the stairs checkpoint. Let's change the size. Nice big checkpoint there at the top of the stairs. And the idea is going to be pretty simple. So I'm going to create a blueprint for it. I'm going to give it a name, but let me make my blueprints folder real quick. Keep things organized. And I'm going to call it BP_checkpoint. Create my blueprint. Come into my event graph. The only one I'm going to worry about is on begin overlap. And it's just going to say that when we overlap this for the first time, our other actor is going to come out here. So this is the actor that we collided with. But I'm going to come out and I'm going to come out of my other actor. And we're going to need to set a variable on that actor. So I'm going to see what's the best way for me to do this. I'm going to make a variable of type third person, right? So it's of type third person character. So here's my third person character variable. I'm going to bring that out. I'm going to grab that. And then I'm going to use this so that I can get to a set. And then we're going to set the variable that's on here. And the variable that we're going to set is spawn point, right? So here's our spawn point variable that's part of our character. Right? And so what I want to do is I want to be able to set this character's spawn point. So I'm actually going to come in here and we're going to come out to cast to third person character. And so what this is going to do is it's going to take our other actor that came in and it's going to turn it into one of these third person characters, right? And so when I come out here, I'm going to set my cast. So now this character variable holds the object that overlapped. So whatever actor entered, it's going to turn it into a third person character and it's going to store it in this variable. And so now that we have it as a character, now we can set spawn point for this character. And so the actor that entered turns into one of these types. So when it comes in, it's just an actor, but now when it comes out of this one, it's a third person character. It's that specific type that has that variable. So on begin overlap, we're going to cast it. When we cast it, we're going to grab that character, and then we're going to set the spawn point of it, and the value we're going to set it to is our checkpoints location. So I'm going to get actor location, and so it's the location of myself, which is this checkpoint, and that's going to be right there. And so now, whenever something enters the checkpoint, it's going to try and see if it's a third-person character. If it is, it's going to set the spawn point of that third-person character to the same location of this checkpoint. And that means the next time I respawn, I'm going to respawn at that checkpoint. So hopefully that makes sense. Whenever we overlap this trigger, we turn the object that entered it, whatever this other actor is, we turn it into a third-person character so that we can set the spawn point variable to the location of this trigger. So now when I play, I run up into my trigger, and now that I've passed through my trigger, when I die, I respawn back at my trigger. And because it sets that variable for my player, and his location is going to be the respawn point, I can actually put a bunch of these in the world. So I'm going to put another one at the end of this. And each of them will act as a checkpoint. So I haven't crossed any of them. I respawn at where I started. I crossed just the first one. I respawn at the first one. I cross the second one. I'll respawn at the second one. If I go back across the first one, I'll respawn at the first one. And so whichever one I crossed last is the one that I'm going to respawn at. And so that's how we're going to create some simple checkpoints. So there you go. Today's lesson, we killed our player by pushing a button. We respawned our player by binding to that event. So bind to on destroyed. And then we created checkpoints that just change the spawn point location so that when we create the new player and take possession of them, they're at whatever the last checkpoint we hit was. In the next class, we're going to keep expanding on this idea of setting up death and checkpoints. We're going to create some AI units that kind of run around in the world here in the next couple lectures. Our goal in this next big set of lectures is to kind of create a fun level that's a little stealth-like, so we'll take a look at those pieces as we go. I'll see you next class.